Why do you think women have been so kind to you? Why do women want to show themselves naked?
Well, I'm not the only guy that, has this experience, This is what goes on between men and women. I don't want to break this news to you, Stina.
But it is not news either that you have this special gift, that there are an abundance of women who happily would do that for you.
Well, where are they now that we need them?
But I have a bunch of friends at home.
Well, my friends are gone and my hair is gray. I ache in the places where I used to play. And I'm crazy for love, but I'm not coming on.
Leonard Cohen, sångaren, textförfattaren, ikonen från 60-talet. Han drog sig tillbaka från rampljuset och försökte sig på livet som munk i 6 år. I Mount Baldy, ett buddhistiskt kloster utanför Los Angeles, där Roshi, en nu 94-årig japansk munk, har fungerat som hans mästare och lärare.
I've got whiskey.
Whiskey, please.
There, now you're talking.
Jag besökte honom i klostret för 4 år sedan och fick en inblick i ett okonventionellt men också stenhårt och disciplinerat munkliv.
Now, let's get down to business, kid.
Men Leonard Cohen lämnade klostret och nu bor han i Los Angeles igen, i ett hus han delar med sin dotter. Ny skiva har han också spelat in, så när vi ses i Paris så är han på alla sätt och vis tillbaka på Boogie Street.
Here is your cart, your cardboard and piss. Here is your love for all this.
One of the wonderful things that happened to me up about Baldy is that I discovered I had no religious aptitude, that I wasn't really a religious man, that I didn't have that gift, that I really didn't have the gift for that kind of life, although I love it in many ways.
So in a way you can say that you failed as a monk.
Yeah, thank God. Well, I think one of the qualities of that kind of life is to recognize that you fail. Young monks, young students come with very sublime religious aspirations, and those are quickly overthrown. I think everybody has that experience, both young and old, of an uncomfortable quality to one's life, a sense of defeat. And, that can either embitter you, as it does to some, or it can open your heart, as it does to other more fortunate people. I'm lucky to be one of those people.
But, so being back on Boogie Street?
It's very nice here. It's very nice on Boogie Street. But up there's Boogie Street too, It's, a monastery, the kind Roshi runs in any case, it's more like a hospital.
And he's the doctor.
And he's the doctor.
And what does he cure?
He cures the illusion that you're sick. And he was successful in my case. He cured the illusion that I needed his teachings.
So what were the sicknesses that you thought you had?
I guess the same sicknesses everybody has, that you don't get what you want, and if you do get it, it isn't what you wanted. The objects of your desire continually escape you. There's some wisdom, some path that if you could only embrace it, you could extract yourself from distress and suffering. All these aspirations that all of us nourish, that there's another life that would be better, that another way would be better, another lover would be better, another métier would be better. This idea that there's something to grasp.
And you were a victim of that illusion before?
I was a specialist.
You were a specialist. You were better than most of us. Because you had more of it. You had more of the fame, of the money, of the women, of the...
Maybe that's so. That's so. I think that everybody experiences the same kind of longing and dissatisfaction. I think it's...
No matter how much you have.
No matter how much you have. I don't know if it's any more bitter when you have a lot than when you have little. I don't think we have a standard to be able to judge who's suffering more, but I think we can take it for granted that everybody suffers a sense of something left undone, unfelt, unexperienced. And mostly it's in the West, where we don't experience famine and other kinds of natural disasters as often. It usually is on the level of the heart. We don't feel we love enough or have enough love.
I don't like your fashion business, mister. And I don't like these drugs that keep you thin. I don't like what happened to my sister. First, we take Manhattan. Then we take Berlin.
How do you cope with that discipline, the rules and the regulations of the monastery?
Well, it's lovely to sleep in past 3 o'clock in the morning, That's a delicious feeling. Although I often get up at 3 just out of habit. But that kind of discipline I never lacked. I was always disciplined in regard to my work. It was the wider sense of a life, and I put on a pretty good show. I mean, my cover story was pretty good. It looked like but my life was orderly because it revolved around writing and recording. But the interior sense I had was of deep disorder. I'd been drinking a lot. On tour, I tend to drink and sing, which is a nice part of the whole process. But I'd gone overboard a bit. And I was at loose ends, and I needed some kind of form. And they got that in spades. First time I came here, I was in real trouble. The head monk was German. And they were waking me up very, very early in the morning. We were building this dining hall over there or repairing it, and there were no windows, and the snow would come in over your rice, and you'd be walking through the ice in sandals, and they'd be beating you in the zendo, and I thought...
Why beating you?
Well, it appeared to be beating me at that time. When you'd fall asleep or you'd doze, your posture would decay. They'd come over with a stick. I'll show you that stick, and they strike you very sharply, twice on either shoulder. It felt like getting beaten to me. Anyways, it all seemed like the revenge of World War II. They'd gotten a bunch of American kids up here and were torturing them to death. I didn't want any part of it, so...
Suzanne takes you down to her place near the river. You can hear the boats go by. You can spend the night beside her. And you know she's half crazy, but that's why you wanna be there. And she feeds you tea and oranges that come all the way from China. And just when you mean to tell her that you have no love to give her.
My association with the community, of course, doesn't end. I see Roshi a lot. In fact, he was down in Los Angeles. He wasn't feeling well, so I made him the chicken soup that he likes. So I
The old Jewish kind of chicken soup?
Yeah, my mother's recipe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess the only difference is that I skin the chicken first before I boil it, because just to remove a bit of the fat. But more or less the same. And Roshi doesn't really like garlic.
No?
No, he doesn't like garlic.
Oh, what a pity.
Yeah, well.
When you're the cook.
Nobody's perfect.
But were you afraid to tell Roshi that you were going to leave the monastery?
I wasn't afraid, but I was concerned.
Did you think he was going to get disappointed?
Well, he granted me permission very reluctantly. We had dinner, a formal dinner, all the monks, all the senior monks were there. And after they left, he said to me, Chikan, when you left, half of me died.
But you have a very, very deep and close relation.
I love him.
Is there anyone that you love more than him?
It's easier to love having had that relationship with Roshi, because that's what he's all about. It's not a sentimental love, it's a kind of impersonal love. What Roshi loves in you is not necessarily who you think you are, but what you really are. He loves that and allows you through that love to locate it. I think that's the most selfless kind of love. He loves what you really are.
Can you love somebody for who she or he really is?
Well, it's not really in your hands, you know. That understanding deepens slowly. I think as you get older.
Yeah, you're still young in these matters.
Yeah, and I think love is all overlooking. I think to love you have to overlook everything. You know, you have to forget about most things.
And forgive.
And forgive, yeah.
Dance me to the wedding now, dance me on and on. Dance me very tenderly and dance me very long. We're both of us beneath our love, we're both of us above. Dance me to the end of love. Dance me to the end of love.
You've written some poems in the monastery. One of my favorites is very short. I don't know if you would like to read it.
Oh,
I think you probably know it.
the sweetest little song, but I like the drawing, huh? The sweetest little song. You go your way, I'll go your way too. Yeah, I think that is the kernel of a love poem. That is the sweetest thing you can hear from someone. The Japanese, I think Roshi told me, I don't know if it's a Japanese saying, but he has a saying, husband and wife drinking tea. Your smile, my smile. Your tears, my tears. I guess it's the description of a real union.
But are you a better lover today?
You know, I'm very grateful because some kind of relaxation overtook me when I realized I was no longer a religious seeker. It's not so much that I got what I was looking for, but the search itself dissolved. And with that came this sense of relaxation. And when one is, I don't mean I don't get bummed out and frustrated, but the background is somehow relaxed now.
I think your sense of humor has developed a lot. A lot of the new poems are very...
Some of them are funny, yeah.
They're very funny.
Yeah. My friends always thought I had a sense of humor. You know, I got the reputation, and I think it's not altogether illegitimate, because my songs were about stressful conditions, sometimes with no resolution. I think a lot of them had a dark feeling. I hope that the writing of the song penetrated the darkness somehow, but for a lot of people it didn't. So I understand that I got labeled as a depressed, pessimistic sort of guy.
Well, but you were not.
No, I wasn't.
No.
No.
I think you said or wrote somewhere that you wanted to kind of keep a diary of your life. You wanted to report.
It seems to be the nature of the work as a kind of diary keeper, kind of journal keeper.
But aren't you too shy to keep an honest diary?
I may be too dishonest to keep an honest diary, but I'm not too shy.
Are you dishonest?
One is struggling with that all the time, you know, especially in this kind of work, because there's I mean, every writer learns certain tricks, so that's okay, you know. There's certain techniques and tricks that you have, but and maybe you can fool others, but there's a certain you can't fool yourself in these matters.
Mm.
And you don't want to fool yourself, so that you keep digging for the authentic tone. But liar, of course, you can't. It's unfair to present yourself socially with brutal honesty. You know, it's like if someone asks you, "How are you?" You know, and you tell them what. You know, they don't want to. You know, it's unfair to tell people how you are.
I smile when I'm angry. I cheat and I lie. I do what I have to do to get by. But I know what is wrong, and I know what is right. And I die for the truth in my secret life.
It's called the correct attitude, except for a couple of hours in the morning, which I passed in the company of a sage. I stayed in bed without food, only a few mouthfuls of water. "You are a fine-looking old man," I said to myself in the mirror. "And what is more, you have the correct attitude. You don't care if it ends or if it goes on. And as for women and music, there will be plenty of that in paradise." Then I went to the Mosque of Memory to express my gratitude. Haven't read that since I wrote it.
Is that true, or is it...
It's just a joke, Stina. It's all just a joke.
But do you have the correct attitude? Do you care if it ends or if it goes on?
Not really. Do you?
Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do.
Yeah, well, that's it. I take your answer as better.
But it's not interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So when you were a little kid...
It takes two people to answer that question.
So when you were little, were you more known as a funny little bloke? Or were you this serious little chap?
I don't know. You know, when in the epoch, the era, the time that I grew up, you know, psychological profiles were not fashionable. You know, you just followed orders, more or less, and whatever you could do on the sly, you did. But you know, it was a pretty disciplined kind of existence when I was a kid. There wasn't the kind of youth rebellion that we see today, and authority and parental control were very, very strong. And nobody cared what your inner condition was, you know, as long as your shoes were beneath your, underneath your bed, you know, in the right way. Yeah. No, we didn't, and we weren't close to our parents. We didn't really discuss our inner condition with our parents. It was very, very, very wise kind of upbringing. It didn't invite self-indulgence.
But you learned discipline.
Oh, it wasn't. You learned good manners, you know, which is better than discipline.
And your dog?
My dog? Oh, you know, I'm very happy these days because my daughter, who lives in the same house as I do, she has 2 dogs, and I love dogs, and she's brought 2 dogs into my life. It's really wonderful, and I play with them every day and teach them tricks.
What kind of dogs?
Mutts, just street dogs. She got them from the pound, you know.
Did you have a dog when you were little?
Yes, I had a Scottish Terrier. His name was, my mother named him Tovarich, comrade. We called him Tinky. And yes, a very, very, I guess, the closest being to me during my childhood. The dog would sleep under my bed and follow me to school and wait for me. So that was a great sense of companionship.
Because you sometimes write about a dog.
Well, I have his picture on my dresser in Los Angeles. We loved that dog, you know. My sister gave me his picture framed as a present.
And what happened when he died?
He died when he was about 13 years old, which is quite old for a dog, and he just asked to go out one night. You know how a dog will just go and stand beside the door. So we opened the door, it was a winter night, and he walked out, and we never saw him again. And it was very distressing. You know, I put ads in the newspaper, and people would say, yes, we have found a Scotty, and, you know, you'd drive 50 miles, and it wouldn't be your Scotty. And we only found him in the springtime when the snow melted and the smell came from under the neighbor's porch. He had just gone outside and gone under the neighbor's porch to die. There's some kind of charity to his owners, you know. Sorrows of the elderly. The old are kind, but the young are hot. Love may be blind, but desire is not. sorrows of the elderly.
Can you explain it?
Oh, it's just a joke on us.
On the elderly?
On the elderly.
I asked a couple of my female friends to help me with questions to you, and they all had the same question.
What is the question?
Ask him if he wants to make love to me.
I'm not so active in this front anymore, but I suppose I could make an exception.
So I tell them that. I was a bit surprised actually, because I mean now for the last, since '93 you've been so much into the spiritual world. When I talked to you last we talked a lot about very serious spiritual matters, but it seems that you still come across as the ladies' man.
Oh, yeah. It's a curious reputation. Very inaccurate. I have, there are a lot of women in my life, certainly. Somehow I appreciate the competence of women. I like the way women work. So I find myself working with a woman engineer and a woman co-writer. My manager is a woman.
In what way do they differ from men, their way of working?
More selfless. Not so much...
less ego?
Less ego, not so much on the line. Or a more skillful negotiation with the ego. And also very quick. Very, very quick, which I appreciate.
But you tried to kill the ladies' man in the 70s already. Death of a ladies' man.
Well, women took care of that.
How do you mean?
I didn't try to kill anyone. I felt I got creamed in a certain way. But everybody has that feeling of the disaster of the heart, because nobody masters the heart, and nobody's a real ladies' man or a love gangster. I mean, nobody really gets a handle on that. Your heart just cooks like shish kebab, and your breast, sizzling and crackling and too hot for the body. Those descriptions, of course, are easy and a kind of joke, a kind of simple description. But I haven't really met, and I've known some men who have real reputations as ladies' men who are real lady killers, and they don't have any handle on it either. I don't think anybody feels very confident in that realm, at whatever level you're operating.
So how did you feel?
Well, the reputation was completely undeserved, for one thing. I don't think my concerns about women and about sex were any deeper or more elaborate than any other guy that I met. That seemed to be the content of most people's, women are the content of men, and men are the content of women. So everybody's involved in this enterprise with everything they've got, and most hanging on by the skin of their teeth. And as I say, nobody masters the situation, especially if it really touches the heart. Then one is in a condition of anxiety most of the time. And even the great ladies' men that I've bumped into, and I've met some real ones, and I'm not in their league, the sense of anxiety about the conquest is still very much there. Because in any case, the woman chooses.
How?
I think the woman chooses. It's been told to me that the woman chooses, and she decides within seconds of meeting the man whether or not she's going to give herself to him. In any case, I think, in most cases, the woman is running the show in these matters. I'm happy to let them have it.
Oh, we're drinking and we're dancing and the band is really happening and the Johnny Walker wisdom running high. And my very sweet companion, she's the angel of compassion. She's rubbing half the world against her thigh. And every drinker, every dancer lifts a happy face to thank her. The fiddler fiddles something so sublime. All the women tear their blouses off and the men they dance on the polka dots. And his partner found and his partner lost and it's hell to pay when the fiddler stops. It's closing time.
In the Book of Longings, there is a long poem, and I probably don't remember the lines right, but it was something like, my dick is the horse, and my life is the chart.
It's the cart.
Is the cart, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, a very vulgar line. I wish I hadn't written it. In fact, I've changed it.
To what?
I don't remember what I changed it to now, because I've had a growing sense of dissatisfaction with that poem. I must remove it from the site, or at least it needs more work. It came out of a time when I'd just come down from Mount Baldy, and I was writing very, very quickly and with a great sense of kind of wild sense of freedom from the schedule. And I was blackening a lot of pages and sending them off to the website. That's one I have to look at.
Why?
Well,
it's very direct.
It's very direct, but I think the language could be, it could be as direct, a little bit more musical, maybe. Try for a different music.
But what did it mean? What was the content?
I think the content is that, you know, that's where a man's brain is. And you know, when I watch the young, as I do because I have two young, well, they're not children, young adults, you know. I remember going to a party that my son invited me to, you know. And I sat there just thanking my lucky stars that I wasn't 25, because I saw this, the level of suffering at one of these events was overwhelming. You know, the mutual displays of attraction, you know, the effort that had gone into each personal presentation, the expectations, the disappointments. It seemed to be one of the circles of hell that I was pleased not to be in.
So where are you now?
Well, I'm not in that inner circle in any case. You know, nothing's over till it's over, but, you know, I find myself in a graceful moment, more or less relaxed.
So you can really experience a big difference in how you tackle things now compared to earlier.
Well, I read somewhere that as you get older, the brain cells associated with anxiety begin to die.
Oh, so that's why I feel so much better.
Of course, you know. I think you know, if that's true, in any case, in my case, it seems to be true. You know, you can just take it all a little more lightly.
It's also very common that when you grow a little older, you start thinking more about your childhood, and a lot of people want to get back to their roots. And you were born a Jew. Did you at all experience this?
I don't have those feelings. I think you get very interested in your children. as you get older, and very very touched by their lives.
So the depressions that you suffered from very much in your earlier days,
They've lifted. They've lifted completely.
so aging is quite nice.
In my case, it's been a great blessing.
But there must be some hard part of it.
Well, I think the collapse of the body is an aspect to it, and I'm not in old age, you know. I think I'm in that good period, you know, before the onset of the diseases that eventually kill you. I think it was Tennessee Williams said, life is a fairly well-written play, except for the third act. It's a very bad third act.
But for you it was the best so far.
Well, you know, just beginning the third act is fine. I don't know how the third act will unfold, but it doesn't unfold very well for anybody.
No.
So I'm probably in you know, the most graceful period that I've ever experienced, you know, before the onset of these unpleasant destruction of the body, which is inevitable.
Do you think there is a big difference between aging for a man and for a woman?
Women say it is. Most of the women I talk to about it say, you know, you're lucky, you know, we're finished at whatever it is. But I know a lot of women my age, and who are also dealing with it very gracefully and very gratefully. You know, a lot of people, men and women, are just relieved that a certain aspect to the struggle is over.
And which aspect is this?
Mating, courting, marriage, you know, or the ceaseless search for a companion. You know, finally, one senses that one is alone, and that it's not that bad. In fact, it even may be sweet.
For Janis Joplin, Chelsea Hotel. I remember you well in the Chelsea Hotel. You were talking so brave and so sweet, not giving me head on the unmade bed, while the limousines wait in the street. And those were the reasons, and that was New York. We were running for the money and the flesh, and that was called love. For the workers in song, probably still is, for those of them left. Ah, but you got away, didn't you, baby? Yeah, you just turn your back on the crowd. You got away, I never once heard you say, I need you, I don't need you, I need you, I don't need you.
But don't you miss a companion?
But I have companionship.
But I mean, don't you miss a woman in your life?
Oh, there are women in my life, but not
a woman.
a woman.
The woman.
The woman. Well, I don't as yet. You know, I don't know what it will be like tomorrow or next week, but at the moment, I have very close friends. There's not the woman, but it's. I don't have a sense of unbearable loneliness. or any sense of anxiety about it. And sometimes women are kind enough to sleep over in a less intense capacity than I may have chosen before. So, you know, it's not as though I don't have the intimacy of women from time to time.
Do you miss those intense experiences?
I was never very good at enjoying it. I was drawn to those intense experiences and obsessed with those intense experiences for much of my life. But I can't say that I really enjoyed them.
How did you feel about them?
Well, I generally gave myself a bad review.
So it was a kind of, you had to perform.
I think there's an aspect of performance and a severe review of the episode and a sense that the performance had not really been stunning. But more accurately than that, there was a sense of anxiety that was the background of the whole enterprise. And that sense of anxiety seems to have lifted. So I find I can enjoy both men and women, because even when you meet men, you know, there's a kind of war dance going on, you know. There's a kind of sexual dance going on with women and a kind of war dance going on with men. And it's very agreeable to have those dances confined to one or two steps rather than the acrobatics that usually attended them.
You were never married?
No, I was never married.
Why?
Cowardice. I had these children, fortunately, but I also grew up in a period where there was a great deal of anti-authoritarian feeling, so some of the people in my generation never felt that they had to consult an authority or have the affirmation of a church or a state to seal their union. I guess I participated in that kind of...
So you're a child of your time?
Of course.
You wrote once that a man never gets over the first sight of a naked woman.
I think that's true, and certainly our Western art confirms that. And I love doing nudes, also drawings. Yes, you know, and I marvel at the insistence of that mechanism that is placed in us, you know, because it never disappears. And one is always shocked, stunned, surprised, delighted, you know, by that apparition of the other, you know, especially at the height of her reproductive capacities, you know, that youth, that promise, that vitality, that is the great sustaining energy in the human situation. So no, we're designed not to grow tired. We don't get a chance to see it that often as we get older, but when we do, and of course the culture completely understands that. So it's continually presenting us with pictures, whether they actually occur in the flesh in our lives. It's really not important anymore, because there's so many opportunities to see beauty, to see beautiful people. You know, they're on the screen, they're on the billboards, they're everywhere, and you know, I don't see that as some sort of indication of the degeneration of our civilization. I see it as the affirmation of that mechanism that is in all of us. Because of a few songs wherein I spoke of their mystery, women have been exceptionally kind to my old age. They make a secret place in their busy lives, and they take me there. They become naked in their different ways, and they say, "Look at me, Leonard. Look at me one last time." Then they bend over the bed and cover me up like a baby that is shivering. I was happy with that little poem.
Why?
I wanted to thank everybody. I wanted to thank the women who had bent over the bed and covered me up like a baby that is shivering.
Now in Vienna, there's 10 pretty women. There's a shoulder where death comes to cry. There's a lobby with 900 windows. There's a tree where the doves go to die. There's a piece that was torn from the morning, and it hangs in the gallery of frost. Aye, 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 aye. Take this waltz, take this waltz, take this waltz with a clamp on its jaws. Oh, I want you, I want you, I want you on a chair with a dead magazine.
But why do you think that you had such a hard time reaching to the state of mind that you're in now?
I don't think anybody determines it or understands it. I don't think we can really penetrate into these matters.
And you're not so interested in the psychological explanations?
No, I don't trust them. As I say in that song, I know that I'm forgiven, but I don't know how I know. I don't trust my inner feelings. Inner feelings come and go. I think that psychological explanations can be valuable, and psychotherapy can be valuable for some people. But the fundamental question of how and why people are as they are is something that we can't penetrate in our, and is part of a plan that we simply cannot grasp. And the feelings that arise, we don't determine. What we're going to see next, we don't determine. What we're going to hear next, taste next, feel next, or think next, we don't determine. And yet we have the sense that we're running the show. So if anything is relaxed in my mind, it's the sense of control, or the sense, or the quest for meaning. And my experience is that there is no fixed self. There's no one whom I can locate as the real me. And dissolving the search for the real me is relaxation, is the content of peace. But these recognitions are temporary and fleeting, you know. Then we go back to thinking that we really know who we are.
And who are you today?
I'm your guest.
But the fact that you are now releasing a new album, is that because you felt the need to publish your new songs and sing your new songs? Or have you responded to a demand?
It's my work, it's my job. You know, I've always felt that unemployment is the great distress, both in society and in the individual. So I'm very happy to be totally and fully employed with the same intensity as the life I lived at Mount Baldy. So this is just the fruits of that work.
So what is most important for you now?
It's a good question. It doesn't seem to register on my dial. I don't know what's most important. I guess the health and welfare of one's children is the most important thing. After that comes, one's own health and one's own work.
And then maybe to take a break right now.
And then playing with the dogs has a big importance in my life. Break, okay. You want one?
I think maybe we should go out a little.
I'll follow you.
Okay. I'm a fast walker.
I'll follow you.
Okay.
Come over to the window, my little darling. I'd like to try to read your palm. I used to think I was some kind of gypsy boy before I let you take me home. Now so long, Marianne, it's time that we began to laugh and cry and cry and laugh about it all again. Well, you know that I love to live with you, but you make me forget so very much. I forget to pray for the angels, and then the angels.
both young and old, of an uncomfortable quality to one's life, a sense of defeat. And, that can either embitter you, as it does to some, or it can open your heart, as it does to other more fortunate people. I'm lucky to be one of those people.
But, so being back on Boogie Street?
It's very nice here. It's very nice on Boogie Street. But up there's Boogie Street too, It's, a monastery, the kind Roshi runs in any case, it's more like a hospital.
And he's the doctor?
And he's the doctor.
And what does he cure?
He cures the illusion that you're sick. And he was successful in my case. He cured the illusion that I needed his teachings.
So what were the sicknesses that you thought you had?
I guess the same sicknesses everybody has, that you don't get what you want, and if you do get it, it isn't what you wanted. The objects of your desire continually escape you. There's some wisdom, some path that if you could only embrace it, you could extract yourself from distress and suffering. All these aspirations that all of us nourish, that there's another life that would be better, that another way would be better, another lover would be better, another métier would be better. This idea that there's something to grasp.
And you were a victim of that illusion before?
I was a specialist.
You were a specialist. You were better than most of us. Because you had more of it. You had more of the fame, of the money, of the women, of the...
Maybe that's so. That's so. I think that everybody experiences the same kind of longing and dissatisfaction. I think it's...
No matter how much you have?
No matter how much you have. I don't know if it's any more bitter when you have a lot than when you have little. I don't think we have a standard to be able to judge who's suffering more, but I think we can take it for granted that everybody suffers a sense of something left undone, unfelt, unexperienced. And mostly it's in the West, where we don't experience famine and other kinds of natural disasters as often. It usually is on the level of the heart. We don't feel we love enough or have enough love.
I don't like your fashion business, mister. And I don't like these drugs that keep you thin. I don't like what happened to my sister. First, we take Manhattan. Then we take Berlin.
How do you cope with that discipline, the rules and the regulations of the monastery?
Well, it's lovely to sleep in past 3 o'clock in the morning, That's a delicious feeling. Although I often get up at 3 just out of habit. But that kind of discipline I never lacked. I was always disciplined in regard to my work. It was the wider sense of a life, and I put on a pretty good show. I mean, my cover story was pretty good. It looked like but my life was orderly because it revolved around writing and recording. But the interior sense I had was of deep disorder. I'd been drinking a lot. On tour, I tend to drink and sing. which is a nice part of the whole process. But I'd gone overboard a bit, and I was at loose ends, and I needed some kind of form. And they got that in spades. First time I came here.
Why do you think women have been so kind to you? Why do women want to show themselves naked?
Well, I'm not the only guy that, has this experience, This is what goes on between men and women. I don't want to break this news to you, Stina.
But it is not news either that you have this special gift, that there are an abundance of women who happily would do that for you.
Well, where are they now that we need them?
But I have a bunch of friends at home.
Well, my friends are gone and my hair is gray. I ache in the places where I used to play. And I'm crazy for love, but I'm not coming on.
Leonard Cohen, sångaren, textförfattaren, ikonen från 60-talet. Han drog sig tillbaka från rampljuset och försökte sig på livet som munk i 6 år. I Mount Baldy, ett buddhistiskt kloster utanför Los Angeles, där Roshi, en nu 94-årig japansk munk, har fungerat som hans mästare och lärare.
I've got whiskey.
Whiskey, please.
There, now you're talking.
Jag besökte honom i klostret för 4 år sedan och fick en inblick i ett okonventionellt men också stenhårt och disciplinerat munkliv.
Now, let's get down to business, kid.
Men Leonard Cohen lämnade klostret och nu bor han i Los Angeles igen, i ett hus han delar med sin dotter. Ny skiva har han också spelat in, så när vi ses i Paris så är han på alla sätt och vis tillbaka på Boogie Street.
Here is your card, your cardboard and piss. Here is your love for all this.
One of the wonderful things that happened to me up about Baldy is that I discovered I had no religious aptitude, that that I wasn't really a religious man, that I didn't have that gift, that I really didn't have the gift for that kind of life, although I love it in many ways.
So in a way you can say that you failed as a monk.
Yeah, thank God. Well, I think one of the qualities of that kind of life is to recognize that you fail. Young monks, young students come with very sublime religious aspirations, and those are quickly overthrown. I think everybody has that experience.